welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ET Now's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and area that matters to you. Tonight on the show, we bring you a segment of Influencer with Atom Technologies, and later on Leader Focus, a segment on the event management industry. On our influencer segment tonight, we bring you a conversation with Devang Nirala of Atom Technologies, talking about how technology is changing how you pay for anything today and how MSMEs are at the forefront of digital payments and digital payment adoptions. Take a look. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, Devang. Let me start by asking you to talk about Atom Technologies.
Just to give you a brief, Atom is close to about 11-year-old company right now. We started in 2006. We started as a mobile payments company, focused on looking at the whole idea being at that point in time, the vision was basically to create a mobile-based ecosystem versus a normal traditional internet or any other kind of a digital payment ecosystem. From then on, we have morphed into basically a complete end-to-end payments player covering all the channels, because if you look at every channel, whether it's point of sale, whether it is internet, whether it is IVR or mobile, we cover all the channel of payments. The idea being, we will believe that each merchant or each business requires an individual touch point for basically collection of electronic payments, and for that they need to cover every area, whether it is point of sale in their store, whether it is online using internet, whether it is over a voice channel using IVR, or to the consumer using something like a mobile payment.
How are each of these growing perhaps?
India today is home to close to about 25 million odd small, medium retailers across the country. These are basically data sources from the government, data sources from the SME chambers and other places. Now, when you look at this, how many of them have actually started using electronic payments? Now, if you look at from a particular vertical point of view, point of sale is close to about 2.8 million terminals are there right now as you look at the data of July 2017. And if you look at internet, you have close to about maybe a million odd merchants who have been using, let's say, online payment and other thing. Rather than looking at individual silos out there, I would say, okay, fine, how do you ensure that basically you can put electronic payment or digital payments into their basically stores or into their shops out there? And the best way of doing that is talking and looking at what kind of businesses do they run. Just from a look, if you look at from a crystal ball gazing, rather than saying point of sale, I would say, okay, fine, any card acceptance point for a shop is going to be imminent over a period of time, and that is going to be the most crucial factor for them driving their business in the next leap.
Given that you have an overview on this industry, for those businesses which are yet to convert to online payment systems, what do you think is holding them back? Through our show, talk to them about advice in terms of what they need to keep in mind to convert to being, or having an online payment system.
I think one of the key drivers is when you look at an online payment system or a digital payment, I would rather say, rather than saying online payments, I would focus on digital payments rather than online, because online is on internet, digital is basically having maybe a point of sale terminal or digital, some form of digital payment infrastructure out there. One of the key barriers out there, if you see, when you look from a store point of view, they have always gone around and looked at commercials as one of the factors for basically driving or seeing things. Okay, if for example in a business, if there is a smaller margin, and at that smaller margin, would they be able to afford or not able to afford basically kind of digital infrastructure out there? Second is basically clearly in terms of, so one was we spoke about affordability, which if you ask me, practically speaking, over a long period of cycle, it is far more affordable to have a digital payment infrastructure within their premise or use some form of digital payment versus not use it at all. You look at the overall cost of cash, you look at the overall security of cash that you're worried about right now, you look at basically the compliance, because everybody is cutting a bill right now. It's not, a lot of people come down and say, okay, fine, people are not using electronic payment because they want to save on taxes or something. I think let's put that misnomer aside. There are people, there are businesses which are giving you a proper bill. So if they are giving you a proper bill, they are paying taxes. If they are paying taxes, there is no reason why they should not be using digital payments out there. So the barrier out there is, yes, there's some amount of education which is further required by them in terms of using that. Second is in terms of making sure that basically they have a complete channel approach, because today, for example, you see a lot of people, like you have a lot more things available right now. Traditional, your credit card and debit cards are used on a point of sale terminal. You have UPI, you have Bheem, you have Aadhaar Pay, a whole lot of technologies that have been innovated over the last 6 or 8 months right now.
This change, have you started seeing in tier 2 and tier 3 as well?
Oh, phenomenal, I'm telling you, phenomenal, because tier 3, tier 1, and if you look at metros, they've been kind of saturated to a certain degree. People who wanted to have electronic payment or digital payment system, they already have it by now, and there are new people who are coming and taking it any which ways. But tier 2, tier 3 cities, that's where we are seeing a larger population out there. Two things drive that. One is in the abundance of debit card that have been issued, thanks to Jan Dhan Yojana and a whole lot of movement which has been done by the card issuer networks out here, and including the card issuing banks. Second is in terms of that large, the population itself has started realizing, because they can start using the terminal. And when you go back to tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they were never there on the digital payment map at all. So that's where the growth momentum is coming right now. And I think that's going to grow up very, very fast.
Okay, you were talking previously about one of the reasons perhaps why companies are not using digital or electronic payment systems, and you said security. Are those concerns completely unwarranted? Because we have seen a lot of data leaks happening of late. How can businesses protect themselves against such things?
One, if they're looking at maybe a government, or maybe a bank, or maybe a private payment player, if they're taking things from a private and payment solutions from a private payment player, they need to see if the payment player is certified, because there are certifications enough out there, like PCI DSS and other things, which make sure that basically the data kept by a payment player or payment service provider is secure. Second is in terms of basically, even if they are basically using the point of sale terminal or maybe some form of electronic payment option out there, what are the kind of checks and balances, how they are going to do that? Are the monies coming to the transaction or not coming in? Are they settled on time or not settled on time? Third is because we are looking at, one is merchant fraud and second is a consumer fraud. Because if you look at from a consumer side, why should a consumer be worried about basically fraud? Because one, in this country, first, one of the biggest thing is because thanks to RBI, we have two-factor authentication right now, whether on point of sale or whether it is online. Now, on point of sale, if you're using your PIN or maybe an OTP or something else to do your transaction, it is equally as secure as basically any kind of a thing. Globally, basically, people have started using chip and PIN. In Europe, they've been using it. US has just moved on to chip and PIN just about maybe about a year back. But India has adopted that standard well ahead. Same thing on online, because online you're seeing 3D secure and other kind of security technologies being there. So one is a comfort in your use of technology itself. The biggest issue out there is in terms of education of the end consumer itself, because for them, they should not be compromising the PINs, they should not be compromising their OTPs, because that's where we see a lot of these issues occurring out there.
You were talking about, the US, for instance, in your earlier answer, and I want to talk about cashless societies across the world. The two best examples, of course, are the US and Sweden to a very large extent. Is it advisable for India to look at those countries as models to emulate, or should we look at solutions which are specific to India, given that such a large percentage or a percentage of our population still don't even have access to bank accounts?
See, one is the goal is moving toward less cash. Eliminating cash completely from a society like India is kind of a pipe dream right now if you look at it, because when you talk about Sweden, Sweden is close to about 90% plus kind of is completely electronic. It's almost the most electronic payment country in the world right now. US is close to about 50%. So if you look at India has far more complex problems, because when you look at things like what you're talking about, unbanked population to maybe a larger population, set of population which basically doesn't have as much of income to basically spend upon, and asking them to use any form of electronic payment. They may or may not have a debit card, they may or may not have electronic instruments. So I think we need larger thing, we need to start looking at two silos out there. One is micro payments, and second is like larger payments. But larger payments are anyway going to come over basically out to electronic channels over a period of time, with increased compliance, with increased things happening out there. The people who don't want to pay using electronic payments, you cannot really push them to do that. But yes, a certain set of population which is educating, which is learning right now, the generational shift is happening right now. They have started using mobility, they started using mobile payment, they've known wallets, they've known basically cards and other things. This is a set of population which is going to start using and adopting electronic payments as fast. Second is in terms of basically when you look at even the unbanked population, idea is yes, those unbanked population, we have alternate solutions available, because I think a lot of innovation has happened in this country right now. When you look at things like Aadhaar payment, you look at things like UPI and other things, a lot more new channels have been created right now to ease the friction, because the whole issue about electronic payments is friction. How easy and how secure is it going to be for an end consumer to make a payment?
Sure. Let's wind down this conversation. What's next on the radar for you?
I think the next 3 years are going to keep us a lot busy right now. We have a lot more on our plate, and I'm sure basically we would play our part in contributing to moving India towards a less cash society. That's the goal.
Thank you so much for coming here on the Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Time for a break. On the other side, we'll bring you some of the biggest names from the event management space. That's coming up on our Leader Focus segment. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. Tonight on Leader Focus, we're featuring the event management space. I spoke with Kickstart Entertainment, Wood Factor and Octave Entertainment about how the industry is changing and what tips these entrepreneurs have for other entrepreneurs and MSMEs in their industry. Take a listen. Thank you all very much for being with us here tonight to talk about event management. And I do know event management is being increasingly used as a tool by a lot of our viewers to be able to communicate about their end product. But before we get there, maybe I can start by asking you to talk to our viewers very briefly about what it is you do.
Myself, Neeraj Mishra. I'm a director of Octave Entertainment. It's an event management company and artist management as well.
Sure.
I'm in this field last 15 years, you can say. I've done more than 1,000 events, India and international shows. Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Aman Anand. I now own a company which is just about 2 years old. It's called Kickstart Entertainment, and we own the India Nightlife Convention Awards. There are two main flagship brands, and obviously been in the industry for more than 18 years with different big players from Whiscraft to Percept, and spend a lot of time learning the IP business and producing great shows across the country and the world.
Hi, this is Amit Relin. I'm a co-producer at a company called Wood Factor Events Private Limited. It's an editorial organization, started ground up by me, and today we are in the space of creating experiential events across India for brands as well as corporates aligned.
Okay. One thing that I would be quite interested in knowing, and I started this conversation by talking about how companies are perhaps increasingly using events as a communication platform. Are the three of you seeing that happening in the fields in which you work, that the view on events is changing? Companies are not perhaps just doing one-off events with companies like yourself, but are maybe perhaps looking at longer events, looking at retainer models, that the view on how and the role really of events is changing.
Yeah, obviously. Initially, it was just a concert, a year before, you can say. Now, the event, you can say in every function, like corporate, wedding, and every function, the events required. So normally, the events now become a very big.
Sure.
So to take that question, of course, if you look at it, brands have started understanding events as a very aggressive marketing tool right now. Earlier, ATL was the only way to go. I think over a course of time, when you've got the marketing teams kind of coming in with matured ideas, which complement, so BTL complementing your ATL strategies, you kind of see brands making it an ROI based model. And brands, you know, like us come into the picture to work not just on one project, but it's a project after the project. So it's follow-ups, there are various touch points that brands look at creating. Earlier it used to be TV mein ad dal do and, you know, maybe your job is done. But no more is that the space, because every field is extremely competitive. So you want to give the consumer the touch and feel. As much as we are going online, we are also still in the touch and feel mode.
How is social media being used then as a tool by event management companies like yourself?
I would jump into that on. You'll be shocked, but today if you're running an IP, an intellectual property, and producing it, you don't have the luxury of main media money at the end of the day. I could totally be frank and say, today my entire property is built in less than 2 years only on social media.
True.
You know, if you have stakeholders who are influential in their fields, I mean, my co-founder Riaz Amlani, I mean, great guy, owns 40 restaurants, over 1,000 crore worth at the age of 40 years old. But his one tweet is my marketing tool for that. I mean, he tells one tweet and you've got XYZ 1,000 followers who are following him and give respect to him in his field. Like that, if you get 40 other stakeholders, you're suddenly reaching a number who's your actual audience, and not wasting money on a front page, you know, spending 25 lakhs on a front page advertisement.
Is it increasingly only about using social media particularly, and the reason I'm asking this question is about being able to reach tier 3, tier 4 towns? Is social media the only way?
Totally social media is the way to go, because today, I'm just telling you, even if you look at a basic number, you'd spend 90% on social media. and 10% on something like media. But in our business of entertainment, as the model is based on partnerships a lot, so you tend not to spend also. You do get partners like a big media house, radio channel, you can get a television, you can get XYZ. So everybody comes together to kind of fit the pie properly.
Tier 3, Tier 4 may be an evolving market, definitely not what the metros are providing right now as a target audience when you look at the demographics available. Today it's become more of, I need virality. You know, this has to go viral. That's become kind of the buzzword. And if you go to see, there would be about 10,000 videos out of which 2 would go and hit that mark of gaining that virality. People are becoming extremely happy about trending on Twitter. So you see a movie release and you see it trend for about half an hour, and that's all over social media again. And you say, you know, we were trending amongst the top 10. But there are brands who need to understand, yes, that's a good avenue, though it's not ROI still, right? Your return on investment is still coming through your BTL channels. And when consumers are actually understanding your product, right? FMCG markets, you know, the beverage market, definitely I think social media is the way to go where he's working in. But if you look at my markets, we are a lot in the real estate, a lot in the banking, financial services. And though it's an industry which has existed for years, people still don't understand what a mutual fund is.
A couple of years ago, brands used to spend a lot of money saying, let's hire XYZ as a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
You know, for example, Mr. Bachchan or a XYZ, you know, a big star, a big name to get on. But they would spend possibly 70% of their budget on hiring the person and they don't have money to actually spend on the media.
On the media for him. Absolutely.
You know? And today, what is surprising is the sheer fact that if by hiring somebody or getting an XYZ brand ambassador, and just rewind ourselves 5 years ago, you wouldn't remember the brand, you'll remember the brand, you wouldn't remember the brand ambassador. But you'll remember an event they did, which is a landmark event, because it was an experience for you.
In terms of overall regulation for the industry, is there much changing?
Well, I fear businesses kind of becoming a little more cautious, outsourcing work and insourcing a lot of the stuff that they give it to us. Technically, they would call themselves experts, but overall, if you go to see, I think it's a little bit, there is enough on the plate for everyone, like if I may say so. You know, there are 3 of us possible competitors even around here, but I'm sure nobody's eating into somebody else's pie. It's in fact shared. The regulations have only gone a notch higher. Yes, there is the government eye on it, but I still do not feel threatened at this point of time as a businessman.
Okay, as we're winding down this conversation, I want you to talk about, you said you've been in the industry for 15 years. From the time you started to where you are, talk to our viewers about what is the 1 or 2 biggest things you've seen changing when it comes to the event management industry.
Actually, you know, initially, as I said before also, it was just a public concert, you know, but once event management is like this. And the gradually changes, the corporates came, then you know, the wedding started, the people normally wanted to keep like in the wedding also the events and all, you know. So it's keep growing and changing every time, you know.
What is the role of IP when it comes to the event management industry, particularly given how crowded this space is? Can entrepreneurs use creating IPs to give themselves that USP and that edge?
Take something which you have conviction on and then grow on it. So we took F&B, hospitality. There's only 1 other awards in that space. But what we did is, to start it, we just went 5 times the scale of that award and just created it. We lost money, sold our soul, we did everything. But already in year 2, we've got an investor for 3 years, locked in, because you did the right product. So if you have conviction and you want to come up with an idea, just be different. That's my take on it.
I want to pick up on what Aman said, Amit, and come to you about the role that funding and sponsorships play in your industry. Are they easier to come by now as more people are becoming aware and there's more acceptance around events as a communication tool?
Well, yes, events, there is a lot of acceptance. People do realize the potential it has, the reach it has to a physical touch point. Though the first part of the question which you spoke about, the sponsorships, it still is a very, very hard sell. Yeah. There are huge properties out there and some brilliant ideas. You know, there is so much that we can do under this Make in India banner of ours. But there are not many people who want to invest in the first year. Aman gave a prime example. First year, you need to have conviction to go out there and say, fair enough, I'll make losses, but I'll sustain this property. And you know what the bigger challenge is? Aman's not reached there yet, but I'm sure he was a part of Percept and you know, Sunburn. But the bigger challenge is the shelf life of these guys, right? Because once you create an IP, the first year you're proving to someone, you're creating a docket to go out there and market to a sponsor, so you get the monies in the second year, and then you make it big in the third year, and you know, you're all suited booted about it. The beauty is in the year 4, year 5, when people are kind of used to it.
Gentlemen, thank you all very much. That wraps up tonight's episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have any questions about any aspect of your business or you want to be featured here on the show, do write in. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. On social media, tweet at me at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now. Our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow and ET Now, is where you can leave your comments for us. You can also call us on that number you see on your screen. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.